Hey everyone, welcome back to our Social Security video here. We're talking about the COLA today, and this affects everybody with Social Security, and it's probably the best feature around Social Security and how it works. So let's dive into it and how this actually goes down and how the COLA can affect your retirement going forward. So, one thing to note with the COLA, it's a cost of living adjustment. What that means is every year, Social Security is going to increase by a little bit based on what that COLA is. Now, if we look at the history of this COLA and how it works, it goes off the CPI report. All right, so the Consumer Price Index. And how it organizes this in the third quarter of every year, those 3 months in the third quarter, it'll take that CPI data, right, the average of those 3 months, and that is what Social Security is going to increase by for that year. All right, so let me repeat that. The third quarter, those 3 months, take the CPI data, and they average that out, and that is what your Social Security will increase by for the next year. So every year there's a third quarter of data they're looking at. Why the third quarter? This is what they chose and what they've kind of gone with the last 30, 40 years. So it's how they do things here at Social Security. Now, in terms of kind of how that affects you, so let's say the COLA is 2.5% for that year. Your payment is going to increase by 2.5%. And really, the whole point of this is to have a little inflation hedge with your income that comes with Social Security. Now, why is this really important? Okay, there's a couple of things. So, in this video, we're going to cover really two items I think is really important: is why the COLA is important and why it can affect when you might take your Social Security going forward. And then two, how do we project this out? Right. So, if we're not retiring yet, we're taking Social Security 5 years from now. What numbers should we utilize to kind of add in this COLA going forward? So, the first thing we're going to talk about is why this is important and why in your planning, you might want to take into account this COLA could be a really good thing for you and your family, depending on how you use it. So, here's an example. Let's imagine we're retiring and we have our Social Security that's coming in, and our Social Security, let's say, could be a smaller check or a larger check, depending on when we take it. If we take it at 62, the earliest we can, we're not going to get as much. Where if we waited to 67, it's actually about a 30% decrease from where it would be from our full retirement age. Okay. So if we did that and we had, let's say, $3,000 a month coming in at full retirement age versus having $2,000 a month at 62, that's a big difference. And every year when the COLA goes up, do we want a larger number going up with the COLA or a smaller? It could play an impact on you. And also, when looking at your planning, do your other income sources that you have, like if you have a pension pulling from a 401k, maybe you have annuity income, other sources of income that you have, does that have an inflation adjustment? Because if it does, great. Maybe we're not so worried then on our Social Security adjustment there. But if all those don't have an inflation adjustment and they're going to kind of stay a steady income within there, then maybe want more income to have this inflation hedge down the road. So when you start planning out your Social Security, why the COLA is so important to think about is when you take your Social Security can affect how big of an effect that COLA has on your retirement going forward. So it's really important to plan this out, folks. I mean, I can't stress it enough because inflation is going to be there and it will continue the next 25, 30, 50 years. For as long as we live, things will always get more expensive. So for that reason, we have a plan to combat that inflation going forward. And one of those plans could be to have Social Security, maybe at a higher amount, going with the COLA. And if your income, let's say you need $60,000 a year, right, to cover your expenses, and your Social Security can either be, 36,000 of that or 24,000 of that, right? That's how much can affect the COLA by. The 36K obviously is a larger percentage of the income that you need that it can increase every year, while 24K is a lower percentage. So it's really important to kind of map that out and think about that before you take your Social Security and how that might affect you in 15, 20 years, not just today. Okay. Now, in terms of projecting this Social Security out into the future, what percentage should you use? All right. Now, if we look at data, okay, the last 5 years of data, so 2019 to 2024, Social Security has increased, by like 4.5, 4.8% a year on average. Right, that's high. Historically, the last 30 years, it's more like 2.5%. 40 years, it's more like 2.4, 2.6, kind of in that range. So if you're going to kind of try and map out what this might look like, 2.5% could be a good number to use there. I wouldn't go higher than that. If anything, go lower. You don't want to over project what Social Security might be in the future for you. And it's something that you want to kind of be on your toes about and make sure you have a good understanding of what that looks like. If you use 5%, you're probably going to be way over projecting what your Social Security might be, which could affect all other parts of your plan as you're planning out this retirement. Okay, so Social Security, I think it's something that's not taught enough, and the COLA isn't talked about enough when it comes to deciding when to take your Social Security. So keep that in mind before you make this important decision. And if you want help on this, you want to maybe talk to somebody who knows about this stuff, knows what they're doing in this area, and can give you proper guidance on what to choose there. All right. If you haven't liked and subscribed to our channel, definitely do so. Like this video, put a comment below if you have a question, and we'll see you folks next time. Thanks.